A murder mystery playing out in real life here in Colorado.
A young woman missing, found dead weeks after she was killed, and the man accused of taking her life nearly 2,000 miles away by the time federal agents found him 8 months later.
Denver7 Investigates has been asking questions about the death of 25-year-old Brittany Meek in a small town in 2023. Well, now investigative reporter Natalie Chuck is getting answers that span across the country.
We've made multiple trips out to the Eastern Plains over this past year, sitting in court and speaking with neighbors about what happened when Brittany Meek was suddenly nowhere to be found. For the first time, we are sitting down on camera with her family. They still want to find out exactly what happened to her.
It's an awesome little town. It's a farm community.
It's the kind of place most might drive right by. But for about 3,500 people with roots running deep through Yuma, Colorado.
These people have hearts bigger than the open sky.
And under these skies, news travels fast. Jackie Monk spends her days running her coffee shop on Main Street. And whenever something is brewing in town,
and everybody knows everything.
Still, no one really knows what happened to Brittany Meek.
It's a beautiful bench that's over there.
Etched in stone, Brittany was just 25 years old in October of 2023 when she disappeared.
I was really devastated by it.
Her friends and family vividly remember that time.
I cried every day, all the time.
Her voice I missed the most.
The young woman, always playing music, lived with her grandma in Yuma.
She would do anything for anybody, anything. And I mean, I know a lot of people say that about a lot of people, but she was so full of life and she really would.
Still, documents reveal Brittany's family acknowledged to investigators she had a history of drug use. They suspected she traded sex for drugs in the past, but were never sure. It didn't take long after her disappearance for anybody who knew Brittany to assume that girl so full of life might have had hers cut short.
It seemed like the moment that she was gone, I could feel it.
Nearly a month later, police announced they found Brittany's body, but details about where and how seemed to move as slowly as life does in this town.
It was kind of hard to go into Yuma because you'd hear all these rumors.
Even Yuma's mayor heard the rumors.
There was a lot of buzz and there was a lot of disinformation.
Everybody was pretty upset and scared because I think that there was a lot of different speculations as to what happened.
8 months later in July, an unexpected announcement. This heavily redacted arrest report pieces together the puzzle of how police found their way to this 62-year-old man.
I knew that she had to have got mixed up somewhere with the wrong person.
Interview after interview, police heard the name Clifton Clayton Bogues. These documents reveal police got surveillance video from the night Brittany disappeared. The view of it showing this loft where Brittany often stayed, the last place anyone saw her car or detectives noticed her phone pinged. The report details 3 people entering the loft that night, but only 2 leaving, and what appears to be a body thrown over a ledge. One of the most shocking parts about where this loft is that we're in one of the busiest parts of Yuma right now. There's a grocery store across the street that's always got people going in and out, plus the bank right next door, a pretty brazen place to potentially commit a crime.
I hope she didn't know it was coming. And if she did, I bet you she put a hell of a fight up.
Police found Brittany's body buried on this property where the report says Bogues worked. The autopsy report determined her cause of death, acute methamphetamine toxicity, but the manner of death, undetermined, leaving open the possibility of a homicide. The report says Brittany also suffered lacerations to her skull and possibly had her wrist tied in a rope. And then, maybe the biggest breakthrough in this case. DNA collected throughout the investigation matched Bogues. U.S. Marshals picked him up in South Central Florida. It wasn't his first time in Florida.
Clearly, it's not a one-off.
Or the first time he's been on law enforcement's radar after a girl has gone missing.
I just wish that there was more of an effort put into the case at the time. I don't think anybody realized the gravity or just how big and widespread this was.
Curtis Michael remembers Bogues being called into question after his cousin, Heather Riggio, seemingly vanished.
She was essentially my sister.
It was 2007 in North Miami Beach. Heather was 20 years old the last time anyone saw her.
She was one of those that was like always the life of the party. You wanted to be around her. She was very energetic. She was beautiful, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Curtis says after Heather lost her mom and without her dad in the picture, things started to change. Heather eventually turning to drugs.
Kind of led her down a path to, hanging out with the wrong crowd, which eventually led to her meeting Clifton.
A cold case detective in Florida confirmed to Denver7 Investigates Bogues is a person of interest in Heather's disappearance. Her body has never been found.
Seemed like the police department down there wasn't really very motivated to get moving on this case. I think a lot of that probably had to do with Heather's track record.
But Heather was not the only one with a record. Bogues was convicted of a violent crime years before. An arrest report from Florida in 1997 reveals Bogues faced charges for sexually assaulting a woman in a car. When she ran away, he shot her in the head twice. The woman survived. Records show Bogues spent just 1 year in prison. Nearly 30 years later, Bogues is behind bars again, facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder, accused of killing Brittany Meek.
Her mom wanted there to watch the kids play at the park.
For her family, that bench, these pictures, the memories are all that's left.
In the deepest, darkest cave, she was a sun lily that was shining so bright, I don't see how anybody could have stepped on her.
And questions still burning.
I just want to know why it happened to her.
Do you think you'll ever really get those answers?
Probably not, but it'll just have me question it every day.
Bogues' next court date is still in limbo after the defense asked for a continuance ahead of his preliminary hearing. We reached out to his attorney, but he cannot comment. Meanwhile, law enforcement in Florida confirmed with us they believe Bogues could have other victims. Our investigative team plans to follow this case every step of the way as Brittany's family fights for answers. For Denver7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.